When is the right time to call a stop to a fight? That's what people were asking after a controversial decision at UFC Vegas 56. But what did the winner, Alexander Volkov, have to say about it? Plus, is there anyone in the featherweight division who can stop Movsar Evloev's rise to the top? And which celebrity is calling out Paddy Pimblett for a potential fight? Stay tuned because all of that and more are coming right up. First up, early stoppage? Alexander Volkov is a man on a mission. He is a top 10 heavyweight fighter who has beaten the likes of Alistair Overeem and Roy Nelson. The latest name on his list is Rozenstruik, who he took less than one round to finish at UFC Vegas 56. The two were still feeling each other out when Volkov hit Rozenstruik with a barrage of punches that almost sent him to his knees. That's what caused the veteran referee Herb Dean to jump in and avoid any further damage. But as he was doing so, Rozenstruik was getting back to his feet and looked to be still in the fight. After the fight, Rozenstruik made his feelings known on Twitter. He said, "I'm kinda confused on how the fight went, and I'm disappointed that it was stopped." He also said that he has no notable damage and that he's ready to fight again soon. Even if the stoppage was seen by some as controversial, Volkov didn't seem to have any problem with the result. Volkov thinks that Rozenstruik was in a dangerous position and probably a little bit knocked out while he was getting hit. Volkov is climbing his way in the heavyweight rankings and now sits just behind Tom Aspinall, who he lost to earlier this year. His win over Rozenstruik could give a strong reason for the rematch between the two before Volkov is tested against any of the top 5 fighters. That starts with Derek Lewis. The 33-year-old Russian has his sight on Lewis after he lost via knockout back in 2018. Volkov thinks that based on his performance in that fight, he deserves a rematch. He said, "I won all the rounds, and then I just took this punch. It was good for him." If they do fight again, Volkov will be trying to avoid Lewis's punches at any cost. Now, Tuivasa versus Gain. Meanwhile, at the top of the division, a huge matchup has been set for early September. Paris will host its very first UFC event, and it will be Tai Tuivasa fighting Cyril Gain that will be the headline. Tuivasa just defeated Derek Lewis in an incredible knockout victory after Lewis had won the first round. But in the second round, Tuivasa caused an upset when he caught Lewis with a few elbows that ended the fight early. Impressively, Tuivasa has won his last 5 fights via knockout. And even more impressively, he was up against Derek Lewis, who has the most number of knockouts in UFC history. But Tuivasa is fast closing in on the record, and at this rate will pass Lewis in a couple of years. His knockout power has made him one of the most dangerous fighters in the division and has helped revive his career. Tuivasa has been with the UFC since 2017, but after 3 wins and 3 losses, pundits were wondering if he would ever really make a mark on the division. His recent form has proven above any doubt that he deserves a shot at the title. That's why he was given the fight against Cyril Gain, who just lost an epic fight against current champion Francis Ngannou. But with Ngannou stepping away from the UFC while he tries to negotiate higher pay, the belt could soon become vacant. If they fail to reach an agreement or Ngannou leaves for the lucrative world of Boeing, his title could be up for grabs, and Tuivasa would be well placed to take it. Coming up, which fighter said that he breaks his hands in almost every fight? And who called out Paddy Pimblett for a fight? So don't go anywhere. Next, Evloev is evolving. If you are a fight fan and you haven't heard of Movsar Evloev, then you should probably start taking notice. He is absolutely dominating his way through the featherweight division right now. Evloev is undefeated in his MMA career and has continued that into his first 5 fights with the UFC. At UFC Vegas 56, that was headlined by Alexander Volkov and Jairzinho Rozenstruik, Movsar Evloev was on the undercard against Dan Ige. Evloev was able to control the fight on his feet and on the ground. Whenever he wanted, he took Ige to the ground, taking control of his back several times and landing heavy fists on his head. On the ground is where Evloev is most comfortable, and his wrestling was on full display. But the striking and countering he was landing on his feet was just as impressive. By the end of the fight, it was clear who had won. Evloev was given the unanimous victory by the judges and shown that he could be the next big featherweight in the division. The win has launched him into the top 10 of the division, and at the end of the fight, he called out Arnold Allen, who is ranked number 6. Dana White hasn't made any decisions yet, and so we'll all have to wait and see. But one thing's for sure, if Evloev can keep up his form, he will be given a title shot sooner or later. And if it doesn't work out for him, he has plenty of other options. With a university degree in computer programming and law, he might be one of the smartest fighters in the UFC. At least it's nice to have a backup plan. Gimme a hand. Have you ever wondered just how much punching power a UFC heavyweight has? Well, what Tom Aspinall goes through every fight might shock you. All fighters get injured. Unfortunately, it just comes with the territory. A lot of the time, they are trying to win rounds and knock each other out to win the fight. But the higher you go up in weight classes, the more difficult this becomes. Tom Aspinall has revealed that during nearly every fight that he has, he breaks his hands. And he explains that it's mainly because of the size and strength of the heavyweights that he's fighting. In a podcast, the Englishman said, "My size of head, when you punch it, it's pretty hard. Another guy my size, when you punch his head as hard as you can, and it's like hitting a wall." Despite that, Aspinall thinks that he is one of the hardest hitters in the world, and even one of the best heavyweights of all time. At the same time, Aspinall isn't impatient about getting a title shot, and instead wants time to build his own legacy. This is a mature approach for a man who has only 2 losses in 14 fights, but he's generally a quiet and humble competitor. That's why KL Sonnen criticized him for not self-promoting enough. So what did Aspinall do? He has now hired KL to be his very own media representative. Sonnen is notoriously one of the best trash talkers in the UFC, and said that he couldn't wait to get him the attention he deserves. It's an interesting new direction for the sport. Could you see Conor McGregor hired for his trash talking next? And lastly, Paddy Boy. One man in the UFC who certainly doesn't need any help in the trash talking department is Paddy Pimblett. But lately, it hasn't been him doing the trash talking. The English lightweight is never short of words, and has won fans from all over the world for his straight shooting and unconventional lifestyle. Unlike most MMA fighters, Paddy seems to only get into shape when there's a fight around the corner. After his last fight in March, he ballooned up to a weight of 200 pounds from eating burgers, chips, and all the good stuff. That's almost 50 pounds over his division's limit of 155 pounds. When asked in an interview about how much weight he had put on, Paddy replied that he'd rather be fat and happy than ripped. These people who are ripped all year round are not happy. I don't care what they say. But it isn't his diet that's been making the headlines recently. The man from Liverpool has been called out by YouTube-turned-boxer Logan Paul. In a podcast episode, Logan said, "I'm taking out Paddy the baddie dude. I'm taking him out." Logan went up against Floyd Mayweather in an exhibition fight last year. Despite being more than 30 pounds heavier and 6 inches taller, the fight went the full 8 rounds, with Floyd admitting afterwards that he was holding back. Paddy is a smaller size to Mayweather, but if the fight was taken into the octagon, it could be a much rougher night for Logan. Do you think Pimblett against Logan Paul would be a good matchup, or should Logan find a bigger opponent for himself? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.